Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Josh Mansfield. Josh, March Madness resumes today, NCAA. And have you been watching any college hoops?
A little bit, yeah. And definitely put my bracket away after round one and just didn't look at that again. But I've been watching little games. At work, we're going to do a potluck and watch the Gonzaga Razorback game today. So we're excited about that one.
Is there like a local area favorite team in Idaho?
Gonzaga. So Spokane is... It's
pretty close, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's 10 minutes away. Well, it's like half an hour away from northern Idaho. From where I am, it's obviously 8-ish hours, but it's a big school that, and Boise State was in first round. So no one really had a bunch of hope for them. So Gonzaga is typically your local favorite.
It's kind of crazy that team has just become a powerhouse college basketball program. Here's the thing that I'm curious to know. So first of all, Gonzaga almost blew it in round one. I mean, almost is maybe a little strong, but it was a very interesting game for 3/4 of the game. St. Peter's is the big story. 15 seed, knocks off Kentucky. Here they are, Sweet 16. No one giving them a chance against Purdue. I'm like, why not? This team just beat two clearly better teams than them. My DraftKings sportsbook, or I don't know which sportsbook, one of the sportsbooks offering them at plus 1,000, 10-1. I really don't think they're going to win because they have a big size disadvantage, but I'm really thinking about a little sprinkle on them. It's like if you, in disc golf, like who would this be akin to? It's like if Gannon Burr was like 50-1 to win a tournament. You're like, I mean, he's probably not going to win, but like he definitely could win.
Those odds, like, well, I mean, I know that Purdue's got the size, but so far every headline has been like X team gets spread out by speed of Y team. Size doesn't matter. Guards are what count in March. Like, I don't know, man. I'm not ready to write St. Pete's off yet. My bracket doesn't matter. So the only chance I've got, we're doing a work pool for like the community, and there's a big flat screen TV on the line. And the only chance I have left is if Arizona wins, because I think I'm the only person who picked Arizona to win.
That's a good pick. I think I have Gonzaga and Arizona in my final. So
okay. I think I had Gonzaga and Purdue, actually. Or sorry, I had Purdue and Arizona. So
okay, so you need Purdue to get past St. Peter's.
I'd like Purdue to win, but I mean the rest of my bracket doesn't matter. So what the heck? Go St. Pete's.
All right, well, we've got some disc golf to talk about. Texas State's is coming up this weekend. It starts tomorrow, and it will be a 3-round tournament on the Disc Golf Elite Tour. And it is not the Texas State's that we know from 2021. So we will get into that a little later in the show. Of course, we'll make our picks. We got an over-under coming your way as well. First up, though, I wanted to talk about how are the manufacturer teams doing so far this year? Because, of course, we talked in the offseason and we prognosticate about, this is a good signing, this is a bad signing. You know, who's had the best season so far? And I think we can kind of maybe pick out some winners and losers at this point. Now, obviously, it's only been 2 events. There's a lot of season to go, but it's the early season. It's the time to make rash claims early on in the year. So let's go ahead and take a look. You want to start an MPO or FPO? Because I think it's kind of like 2 separate conversations.
Oh, for sure. Let's start an MPO. I feel like there are a lot more moves.
All right. I'm going to start with a winner. We can talk winners and losers. Winner, Discraft. Currently at the top of the power rankings are Paul Macbeth and Chris Dickerson, who are 1-2, and Macbeth, of course, winning Waco, and Chris Dickerson winning at the Belton this past weekend, and also just looking really good at his other events so far to start the year. And, Adam Hammis may be a little disappointing so far relative to expectations, but still solidly in the top 20. And, even if you get a little deeper in the bench, like Aaron Gossage has been pretty impressive so far and has really good peripheral stats. When you look at like his ability to drive the green, we could see him be kind of a breakout player. But when you're 1-2, obviously having Macbeth is always going to put them in a good position. But Chris Dickerson was an obviously tremendous signing for them, and they're the obvious winner so far this year.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'm not sure what they're paying Chris Dickerson, but I mean, they didn't announce contract numbers, so I don't think it's quite as splashy as DD, for example, with their Ricky signing. You got to think that it's just for the publicity. I know those Chris Dickerson buzzes were widely popular, and I'm sure any disc he drops is going to continue to be popular, especially if he continues to play like this.
It's the buzz.
Oh, I know.
The buzz is one of the greatest selling discs of all time. Like the fact that he gets to have the buzz is, I mean, they were like, here's how we're going to make you make money. We're going to put your name on the buzz and we're going to sell it for more money. And that's going to work out for everybody.
And it has.
Yes. Who would you pick out as a winner?
I'm going to pick Prodigy as my next winner.
Sneaky winner.
Yeah.
Sneaky winner. They lose Chris Dickerson, Josh.
Mm-hmm.
But on the MPO side, take a look in the power rankings right now.
Yeah, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Luke Humphries, Gannon Burr, Kevin Jones, Thomas Gilbert. And then if you go further down, you can also find Kale LaVisca, who also is there. So, I mean, 5 in the top 25 and 4 in the top 10. And here's what I think is so good about these signings. One, I don't think any of them, and maybe Kevin Jones is more expensive, but I mean, the other 3 certainly did not break the bank. You have young players in Kevin Jones and Gannon Burr and Thomas Gilbert who still have so much potential left to continue to go upwards. And Luke Humphries is only beginning to tap into his potential, even though he's in his, what was it, like early 30s?
Mid-30s, 34.
Mid-30s, yeah. And I mean, here's the thing that's nice about Luke Humphries. Luke Humphries is going to move like plastic. He's got a really cool stamp, and people love Luke Humphries because he's such an interesting guy. And from his notoriety, I think Prodigy is in great shape. He
is one of the best logos in disc golf, if you ask me.
I completely agree.
Because so many of these logos are this derivatives of the same concept. Oh, how can I put my initials in a white and black logo and put it on a hat? It's like, guy, you're not all Paul Macbeth. Please do something different. He went completely in a different direction. Colorful, man and dog. It's a logo that you can wear as like, you could put it on a hat or a shirt and you could wear it in normal company and people would be like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be a disc golf thing or some, Roger Federer type logo. But obviously it feels like house money for Luke Humphries to be at number 6 in the power rankings. When he even told us in our interview a couple weeks ago that his contract is not designed around incentives on the course. I mean, he has them, but like the point is that he's a media presence. And then you're getting this like bonus. It's like you hit the side pot when you're playing blackjack and you put $10 on the side pot. Boom, you hit it. So, I mean, obviously losing Chris Dickerson and Katrina Allen, we should put that in context. Katrina Allen is currently sitting atop the FPO power rankings. Okay, so those are obvious losses and negatives. The question is, it's a cost-benefit analysis. Could they have paid both of those players what they are getting from the market? I honestly don't know. It seems like not, right? If they could have paid them, they would have paid them. You have to say, though, that given the expectations for Prodigy coming into the year of what an absolute disaster, it looks pretty good. I mean, it's not amazing, right? We haven't seen Kevin Jones win an event. But, Luke Humphries has been a big story. Gannon Burr has been a big story. That is like, those players have been on lead cards and seeing, like, getting oxygen from media appearances and things. So to me, that's got to be a huge win for Prodigy. let's talk about.
That's exactly what I was going to say is the oxygen point. I think if you have Chris Dickerson and Katrina Allen still on your team, you probably don't move as much plastic because they always get as much oxygen. They're always sucking that up. And so great point there.
Let's go with a loser here. Who's a loser so far? I don't know if anybody's like in disastrous straits, but
Innova.
It's gotta be, right?
It's
gotta
not
be
disaster, but Innova's not looking clean right now.
I mean, it's just given the depth of the talent that they have, right?
Mm-hmm.
With all of the players that they have on their teams who are like competitive level pros, it's a little scarce up at the top in MPO. They have excellent FPO presence. We'll get to that. But, Calvin Heimberg's up at 4, but it feels like he's still not tapping into his full potential. Joel Freeman, who we just talked to on the interview series yesterday. I hope you checked that out. He's playing pretty well so far. Like, didn't play his best at Belton, but nice appearance at Waco. But then, they have 5 players in the top 25. Not a surprise given their depth. But like Bradley Williams, Alex Russell, Garrett Gerthy, they're playing well, but they're not getting like media time.
Right.
And look who's up towards the top, Ricky. I mean, technically Ricky is below Calvin right now in the power rankings. So make of that what you will, but it does feel like Ricky walking was just automatically going to hurt unless they had big breakout performance. I mean, there's a lot riding on Calvin basically.
And the problem with Joel being, kind of breaking out a little bit and playing super well is that I'm more likely to go to Joel's like sponsor who sells the strawberry shirt and buy one of those than I am to buy a Joel Freeman signature disc. It's just, and that hurts Innova as well when you look at the overall presence that they're portraying to the media.
I think we have to say it. It's a tough start to the year for Discmania. Obviously there's some circumstances out of their control with Eagles' injury and Simon becoming a father, and obviously as a result playing fewer tournaments. And Kyle Klein has been a little shaky so far, although it seems like he's starting to play a little better. Like things seem to click a little bit more towards the end of Belton. So it's. Again, they have players in the top 25. It's not like it's been a brutal disaster, but they don't have anybody in the top 10 right now. And that's a rare circumstance. Obviously, Eagle's the highest rated player in the world. So, take it with a grain of salt. But if he's not on the course, are you getting the benefits of Eagle right now?
And it's also pretty underwhelming performances for players that were ranked 3 and 5 coming into the season.
Good point.
They've both dropped 11 spots. So that's, I think Discmania is a good loser to pick here.
How do you feel about DD?
To be determined. Kind of, I mean, they're already making their money back on Ricky, I believe, or, will be making their money back on Ricky. He's coming into form. Maybe not there yet, but he's playing better. Honestly, Didi and Ricky feel kind of like the projection. Like this is what I expect out of a top player that switches companies.
Right.
They are on path. They're not below. They are not above. Like Chris Dickerson is outperforming my expectations a bit for the new bag. Ricky is just right on path. And I think he's going to play well this weekend. I think he's going to continue to play better, and he'll be back right up to form by Champions Cup. So, winner, yeah, but no more of a winner than I thought they were coming in off of the offseason.
Yeah, I don't think that we've seen like an outperformance. But let's take this opportunity to bounce over to FPO because obviously DD is in a sort of different situation over there. Kona Panis has completely dropped out of the top 25 in the power rankings. And how can you argue with that? I mean, she's missed cash at multiple tournaments. And, this is their star splashy signing. And now you see them on social media hyping up Valerie Mondahano, as they should. But it's kind of funny. Like, how do you rate that? Valerie Mondahano is top 3 in the power rankings, one of the best players to start the season, and a cheap signing relative. So, like, you're getting great value there. But then you have this Kona Pans contract, which is looking pretty ugly right now. It's early, I know, but those things seem to me to kind of they go to neutral. Like they cancel each other out in some ways. And I feel like overall DD is getting value from the total package of what they did in the offseason. They're getting value, even if it's not coming necessarily from where you thought it might.
If you're talking on-course performance alone, I completely agree with that. I think Valerie is kind of where we could have expected Kona if she had a breakout year, like some had talked about. You also have Macy Vela-Diaz, who's now in the top 10, which is another, I think, bargain signing. And so you have performance that you kind of expect. I expected DD to have 2 FPO in the top 10 by this point. It's not the 2 that I expected, but they've got 2 in there. So great. That's good. Here's the problem, though, is that if Kona continues to play poorly, the longer she plays poorly, I think the more difficulty she's going to have in justifying her price tag, because yes, she has the social media factor. And I think that meant that she wasn't the top 5 pro, but we still thought the signing was a good one because of the ability to move plastic. But the longer Kona, I saw a tweet a couple days ago where someone asked the question about what is Kona's problem right now, because they haven't seen her on coverage all season. So they can't talk about how she's playing.
Right.
That's a problem. And as you said, if they're hyping up Valerie Mondahano, like the amplification effect of Kona's social media goes down.
Put yourself in DD's shoes. If you're DD and you get a choice, because the sponsoring, the manufacturing sponsor of events gets to pick one of the players that's on the feature card. Okay, that's the way the process works for the Pro Tour. If you're DD and you get to pick, who you picking? Everyone knows the answer.
Here's the point.
It would be foolish right now to put Kona on the lead card, on the feature card. It would. I'm sorry, but it's true. If you have to pick Valerie right now, and that's probably what we'll see.
And who
are the feature cards this weekend? I want to look it up.
Okay, you look at that. While you're looking, here's what I want to say is the problem with that. The problem with that is that Valerie doesn't have or yet the capacity to move discs like Kona. It's going to take her time to build up the same presence.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I agree that in overall placement, I think it's a net wash. I think that DD is probably underselling discs from where they expected to be right now because of the way their top pros are performing. If that was that direct correlative, maybe if we need to see a couple more months before that truly begins to hit. Valerie does not move discs like Kona. Kona is not playing well, and thus is moving less discs. And so I think DD is slight loser.
Okay. So, who sponsors this tournament?
Latitude 64.
No, well, it's DD. There's a DD email address because Steven Story is the TD, but it is Latitude 64 sponsored, right?
Yeah. Texas State Disc Golf Championship presented by Latitude 64.
Okay. So here's your feature card FPO: okay. Katrina Allen, Holly Finley, Valerie Mondahano, Maria Oliva. So that's 2 Innova, 1 DGA, and 1 DD. Normally, they reserve a spot for the previous year's winner, but Haley King had to turn around because of the tornadoes and the storms when she was driving down from Wisconsin. Or actually, I actually don't know where she's living now. I think she moved to Charlotte, so she might have been driving from Charlotte. She might have been at home. Don't quote me. I'd have to look.
She saw the New Orleans weather report, and that's what caused her to turn around.
So I have to assume that Valerie Mondahano was the selection from the sponsor, right?
Yeah.
We don't know that. That's not announced.
Say the feature card again?
Katrina Allen, Holly Finley, Valerie Mondahano, Maria Oliva.
That's so weird that it's not Kristen.
Agreed. She's on the second card. I mean, maybe that will be the GK card because it has Rebecca Cox and Kristen, and then Paige Pierce and Jessica Weiss.
Okay.
So that's the the quote unquote chase card, right? It's it will be covered on the live coverage. It's not clear whether GK Pro is filming that card or the top card.
What's the MPO feature?
The last card out is Ricky Wysocki, Chris Clemens, Luke Humphreys, Nicholas Antila.
What's the second card on that one?
Matt Oram, Paul Macbeth, Jeremy Colling, Linus Carlson. That's the Jomez card. I know that.
That's the Jomez card.
That's the Jomez card.
Linus is the Latitude 64 sponsored player.
You are right.
So I wonder if... I think you're right
that
GK must be second card. So second card gets the sponsor choice.
Sometimes we've seen GK cover the top, like the last card out, but I think you're right. I think you're right. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
It is Latitude 64 sponsored. Anyway, the point stands. You get my point. I don't know when the next we have DDO coming up a little bit. That might be the next one that they're sponsoring. Let's see what happens. Okay.
All right.
Continue. GGA, gigantic W, gigantic W. It's done. What do you need to know?
Huge W. Carry on.
Couldn't make a bigger W than that. Well, let's talk Latitude 64 while we're on the topic. Kristen Tatar sitting at number 2. Rebecca Cox playing really well this season. She's up 10 spots since early this year. She's sitting at 13 in the power rankings right now, and she's looking better. I mean, her putter looks better. She looks more competitive out there. We didn't really mention them in the conversation on the men's side. Linus Carlson is at 24 right now in the power rankings. And, I think I give him a little leeway on that side of things. And Emerson Keith is still a Latitude 64 sponsored, is he not? And he was on the lead card of the final round of Belton. So that's pretty solid.
There you go. Yeah, good. I think Kristen is playing up to where her contract is. And Rebecca's a nice playing well bonus. So I think it's a good off season. Nothing too flashy. I mean, can't say that about. Kristen had an amazing, no splashy signings from somewhere else. Just
didn't sign a player from outside the company. Obviously, they gave her the big contract, and she obviously deserves it.
And is playing just as well as we expected. So win for Latitude 64.
Innova's got to get a W on the FPO side. I mean, you could argue that they need to have somebody up a little bit higher, but they have 4 in the top 10, 5 in the top 11, and depth all the way to the bottom. Evelina Salonen, Haley King, Kat Murch, Owen Scoggins, all inside the top 10. Henna Blomroos just outside at 11. Then you've got Maria Oliva, Holly Finley, Deanne Carey, and Jessica Weiss all the way down through the top 25. I mean, it's depth, it's top end. I would almost guarantee you we're going to see Innova players win tournaments this year. They just have a very good FPO team right now. I think they need to be ready for what happens in this next offseason, because I think contracts are up for Haley King, who's on a 1-year deal, Evelina, Henna, and at that point it's like, okay, like who you throwing money at?
Yeah.
It's like with Calvin. It's like, you better get ready to pay your people because
you have 2 women in the European market. I feel like you probably can retain at least 2 of them, right? Evelina and Haley, for example, which I feel like would be the obvious choice right now. So I don't see it as being a complete, like a huge risk, but I mean, it is contract time. So we've been wrong about slow off seasons before.
Yeah.
God, I think another win, Discmania. 0 expectations coming in for their FPO team. And I think Ella Hansen and Cynthia Ricciardi they're doing well. Cynthia Ricciardi makes it onto the power rankings, was not previously. Ella Hansen being on tour full time, it's shown improvements for her game, and I think that's only just going to continue as the season goes on.
How do we feel about MVP? Both sides. Sarah Hokum is at 16. Madison Walker is at 20. James Conrad is at 17.
I mean, I think they're pretty neutral. They didn't sign anybody. Their players are still. James Conrad is too busy rolling in his money to be bothered by anything right now after the NV sales from Worlds. So I don't know. Like, could they be playing a little bit better? Yeah. Is MVP really worried about it right now? Probably not.
You ready for this stat?
Okay, go ahead.
In their they release information in their lab report. You can find this, like, it's an email newsletter. I think they put it on Facebook too. They have 10x'd their capacity since the start of the pandemic, and they have made more discs in the last year than in the previous 11 years combined. They're doing okay. Obviously, when you're starting with a smaller base, it's easier to grow that kind of crazy amount. But, they've already earned the James Conrad contract dollars that they've spent, right? It doesn't even matter
10 times over
at this point, like, what happens. So, they've gone from a brand that people kind of sort of knew about to feeling like they're a little bit more of a major player. I won't be surprised to see them sign more players next offseason and try to get, a bigger team, because I think I don't know if I want to call it a weakness, because the whole point is marketing and selling more discs. And if it's working, you don't need to spend money just to spend money. This is not a baseball team. So they are getting outsized value for the kind of the tier of players that they have signed. It's not the Macbeth, Paige Pierce, Kristen Tatar tier, but good players. And obviously, James, the way that it went down at Worlds, that has got to be one of the biggest marketing wins in the history of sports.
Yeah, MVP should write a thank you letter to the Disc Golf Pro Tour for showing that so many times.
Oh my God. Please. Please. Just take it out of rotation all the time. Oh my gosh.
I want to add, though, MVP's lab report, the best newsletter of any manufacturer, without a doubt. It's so good. It's so good.
And they give you info like that. No other companies are not sharing that kind of information. Mm-hmm. And it's very, good for them. It's exciting to talk about it. And it's quite interesting. So, let's see. Anybody else to talk about here? Well, FPO, Prodigy.
L. Big L.
You'll see what happens. Heather Young is a talented player, but, to let Katrina walk, it never made sense. I'm really surprised that they didn't try to make it work, and maybe they did. But
yeah, I don't know.
It's not a great off season on that side of the disc.
Here's the other thing I'm going to add. Discraft, I think, is also an L this season. And this is relative to last
That's kind of a
season,
spicy
right?
take.
They're fine. They still have Paige Pierce heading the ship, and they're going to continue to sell discs as long as she's there. She's not having a bad season per se, but she's not having an exceptional season. And so
she hasn't played to her abilities yet.
Right. So that's off the mark. Missy Gannon is regressing. I think I don't know if we saw a peak from Missy Gannon, but some could argue that player of the year and her performance at the last two majors was a kind of an anomaly, not a pattern or a rule. And so, I think this is what we said at the off season. Missy's going to fall off because of a field of increasing depth. And that is proving true. That sucks for Discraft.
She's literally dropped 3 spots in the power rankings. And if you look at the players who have sort of surged so far this season, you're looking at 2 of the European players, and you're looking at Valerie Mondahano as sort of displacing her so far. Mm-hmm. It's not like Missy's playing bad. It's just that better players are in the field now. And look, it's been 2 tournaments, so but I have to say that I agree because also Haley King walked. So
yes, and that's the other thing.
They lose Haley King. Paige is playing a little bit worse than last year so far. Missy's playing a little bit worse than last year so far. Fair point. When you have Paige, though, it's going to take, you're going to need to see a long, extended stretch of Paige not winning and top 3ing in order for it to become like an actual loss,
And I mean, yeah, and even then, I'm still like, she's still gonna move.
Yes,
plastic, so
people are buying those discs for sure.
I mean, yeah, it's they're losing right now relative to what they did end of last season. They're fine.
Down further, Alexis Mondahano at 18. Vanessa Van Dyken has been playing better of late. She's at 19. So anyway, then there's a smattering of other companies here and there. Obviously, Drew Gibson. A nice player for Infinite and his own company, Finish Line, and you've got Nico up in the top 10, repping the combo bag, and we could go through it even further, but shout out to Charlie Moore, who sneaks in at number 25 in the MPO rankings, repping Lone Star Disc. So Texas, shout out, good for him. He had a nice finish at Waco. All right. Let's head into a quick break. When we come back, we're talking Texas States this weekend, making our picks. Stay with us. It's the Upshot. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. I've been talking about it. The new, smaller bag from Pound, the Rufus, is almost here. You can check out videos of the prototype version 1 and 2 on Pound Disc Golf's new YouTube channel. Just search Pound Disc Golf on YouTube or go to youtube.com/Pound Disc Golf, and you can check out the videos as well as an introduction to their new fly pack, which is available now. I can't wait to get my hands on a Rufus. Already they've built so many cool new things into just the version 2 of the prototype, so go check out the video and find out more. Welcome back to the Upshot. So the Texas State Disc Golf Championships start tomorrow in Tyler, Texas. And this is a very different tournament than a year ago. So last year, they're on the Dogwood course. It's pretty much all woods. Dense woods, very technical lines, shot shaping with fairway drivers and mids, and a true sort of the first stop of woods disc golf on the tour. This year, they are designing an entirely new layout. It's essentially a safari course over the 3 courses that normally exist on this property. And it combines the Hickory course, the Cedar course, and the Dogwood course into this mega course. And it is a little bit mega because it's long. I mean, it's not, there's woods, but there's not nearly as much woods. It's much more open. It feels to me like they've redesigned this with spectators in mind. MPO par 63, 9,772 feet. FPO par 67, 8,986 feet. So this is the longest course, I think, on tour so far, because LVC, even though it's a big golf course layout, it's actually not that long. So this reaches nearly 10,000 feet for MPO, despite some holes in the woods. And so, there's like basically holes 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 are all in the woods. Many of them on the sort of original, couple of those original Dogwood holes from last year. So pretty long considering that you have that many holes in wooded parts of this property. So that is the kind of the foundation here. And what it means, Josh, is that, there's long par 4s where being able to throw a distance driver really far is going to be critical. Not something we really saw here last year.
And I've seen some feedback from a lot of pros who are kind of upset because they liked the Dogwood track and liked a lot of things about it. But if you look at kind of the overall course map in the caddy book and kind of look at the facilities now, I think the spectator areas make a ton of sense. I think it's well designed for a Pro Tour Elite Series event with the kind of facilities that are necessary in order to host as many spectators as they're hoping to. And so it makes sense. I think it's a good change in a world where tournaments need to adapt to the Pro Tour standards of spectators, of media, etc. in this era in order to continue to keep a spot on the Pro Tour in a very competitive scene. I think these changes make a lot of sense. And what I put in my notes when I was looking at it, it feels like Ledgestone, like kind of the Lake Eureka course in a lot of ways, with a little bit of Northwood sprinkled in with those remaining dogwood courses or holes. It's around baseball diamonds. You got OB and Mandos defining some of your fairways. So I'm interested to see how it plays. But overall, I think it looks like a pretty interesting track, especially on the MPO side.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see how it shakes out. I'm going to be a little frustrated if the only solution that is derived to like accommodate spectators is to just be like, well, we're not going to do woods courses then. That can't be the answer. Mm-hmm. Okay? Like, we need to have more of a solution than let's just create more wide open holes. Like, carve a pocket of trees out, put stands in. I know that's not necessarily realistic in a short-term situation and in a public park. I completely understand that. So I'm not asking for that to happen at Texas State's, but this is a concerning trend to me as an overall thing. Not to say that this layout isn't going to be good and interesting. I just feel like, Texas State's last year, the Dogwood course, beautiful. Like all these wooded holes, very pretty, honestly really nice to watch on camera. I can understand how it would not be very accommodating for spectators. That said, now it's more of an eyesore course. I got to be honest. There's a freeway. There's parking lots. I've looked at a couple of the course previews that have been shot by some amateur players who've gone out and I appreciate that on this, what they're calling the Thorn layout. I believe wholeheartedly that this is going to be a challenging course. I think there's going to be some very interesting holes. There's lots of tricky OB, and there's like one of the baseball fences is a Mando the whole way. So you can't go over with a hyzer on this, with a right-handed hyzer over this baseball diamond. That's going to be an OB stroke because it's full mandatory. And like things like that, that's kind of interesting. But it also, I don't know. It feels like it's a little bit of a disappointment considering that I was looking forward to seeing the Dogwood track again.
I agree. I was also looking forward to seeing Dogwood. And this course, I mean, you said it kindly that it's a little bit of an eyesore. This course is ugly. Like it's so, and the time of year doesn't benefit it.
No, it doesn't.
There's no leaves on the trees. All the grass is brown. Then you've got baseball field fences and light posts and freeways. It is not an attractive property as it stands now.
At least some of those open holes. I think it'll be nice when we get in the woods and it's not like it's all bad. But yeah, I mean, look, I get it. We're in a park. And
I'm sure it'll look better. It'll look better when it's on a professional camera and
yes,
but it's not going to win any beauty awards. That's for sure.
Just to note, the Dogwood course last year, 7,600 feet for MPO and 7,300 feet for FPO. So that gives you a sense of, how much out of the woods we've gone and how much extra length has been added. So notes from last year, Ricky Wysocki, Haley King, your champions in 2021. Ricky Wysocki has played Texas State's 5 times in his career, and he has won the event all 5 times, including 3 times as an Elite Series event. Pretty amazing note from Ricky. So he's played it in 2021, 19, 17, 14, and 13. So, he'll be the defending champ, not back to back if he wins this year, but back to back. And, obviously the layouts have been very different over the years. So he just seems to have an affinity for Lindsay Park, and maybe if some of these weren't even at Lindsay Park, it's moved around. So state of Texas, Ricky Wysocki.
That's right.
This is where he really got going last year. Remember he won Belton and then he won Texas State's. He didn't win Belton this year, but maybe he'll get it going at Texas State's.
That's a fair pick. Haley King not defending her title, as you mentioned, weather. So FPO has a little bit of change for sure. We will have a new champion. The one thing I want to make note of FPO, and I actually have an over-under for you, Charlie. I am going to reserve judgment until after the tournament, but I have notes of a couple holes that, based on the caddy book, I am not excited about, and I do not think are good FPO holes. So I'm going to wait and see, because the one big thing is elevation is not on this caddy book. And it's really hard to tell from, amateur videos exactly how that's going to play for the FPO side. So I may revisit this subject on Tuesday. But hole 3, just as an example, 464 feet. We know that it's downhill. We looked up this video real quick. But still, a low ceiling forehand 460-foot shot par 3 for FPO seems unrealistic at best.
Yeah, I mean, it is downhill.
Uh-huh.
But you have to hit the double Mando, which you'd probably want to hit anyway, to be honest. And it is a left to right shot. And so what, you got an over-under for me?
I do have an over-under for you. In any single round, 2.5 birdies for FPO on hole 3.
So in a single round, not over the course of the tournament. In a single round,
yeah, not over the course of the tournament. So you have to think about which players you think have the capacity to get there.
464 feet downhill on a left to right line.
Low ceiling.
Man, that's going to be tough. That's going to be tough. It's so hard to know without watching some players play the course to get a sense of how does it actually play in practice. That's a long way to throw, even on a downhill line, when it's not like a wide open shot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say under.
Okay.
I'm going to say under. But it's such a tweener, This is a separator hole for FPO, right? If you can get this birdie, that's going to be a huge, you're going to get a stroke on most of the field, I think.
I think you're going to get a stroke on half the field and possibly 2.
I think most players will be able to get there in 3. If you miss the Mando, obviously, or you hit a tree or whatever, it could be very difficult to get up and down. But yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of 3s is what I would expect, because it's you just kind of maybe you don't even try, right? You just chip up past the Mandos and then you throw your upshot and then you take your 3.
Yeah, 2 straight mid-range shots.
Probably going to play it that way. So yeah, I'll take the under. Okay. I'd love to see if a player or 2 goes for it, because that could be pretty exciting.
I think a lot. If there are birdies, some of them might be throw-ins.
Oh, that's an interesting idea. The basket's kind of nestled in the woods, so there's some backdrop there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
All right, so as mentioned, Haley King will not be in attendance. Some other notes for this weekend: Matt Oram will be starting his tour after being sidelined earlier this year because he had appendicitis. He had to go in for surgery. He's been recovering, but he is going to be back out there. And we're going to see him on the live coverage in round 1. So that'll be fun. And a number of European players are beginning their tour here at Texas State's. Most notably, Nicholas Antilla will be joining the tour, reigning European champion, and a great opportunity to see what he can do in a Disc Golf Pro Tour field. Lucas Rokkonen, Nico Ratia, Vaino Makala, and Christo Rake also joining the tour here. So a big influx of Europeans, as basically all of the top European players come over on the path to Champions Cup in just a few weeks, our first major of the year. Any expectations for the Europeans, Josh?
Vino Makala could do really well here. Like, Vino Makala is an amazing player. Nicholas Antila as well. Like, they both could play. Any of these guys could. But I especially am interested in watching Vino and Nicholas play at this course and seeing.
Can I give you a bonus over-under?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Over-under 0.5 European players in the top 10 on the MPO side.
Has that happened yet? I don't think so. I think Linus Carlson got like 16th at a tournament, and that was our best one so far.
But you have the most players available to try to top 10,
right?
That we've had so far this season.
Let me find Linus real quick. I want to see what his finishes are. 17, 21, 24. You know what? I have been on the European track for a long time, and I believe in the power. Like, these players are good. It's first tournament back though. Oh shoot! I'm gonna take the over.
He's doing it, folks.
It's so boring, but
is it boring? I think the odds-on answer is still under.
Really?
I think so.
Oh,
like, why do you think there's going to be a top 10? What's the...
No, sorry. I'm taking the other way.
You want the under then?
Yes,
under 0.5 players
under
in
the
the top
0.5.
10.
I was thinking over the 10. Yes, I want the under.
I see.
Yeah. No. I do not think... Like, that's why it's boring, right? Because
yes,
odds are against... Boring. It's much more boring.
You got to make the pick that you believe in, Josh.
Yeah, I know.
Now, oh man, I'm excited to have the other side of this. I'm going to be rooting. I'm going to be rooting hard.
You're making me. I have to cheer against the Europeans now. You know how bad that hurts me, Charlie.
You made your choice, Josh.
I know.
You made your bed. Now lay in it. All right, let's get to our picks. Again, 5 points on the line for picking the winner, point per player in the top 3 podiums. And guess what? It is time. We are going to be launching our over, under, and picks platform. It's still in development a little bit. So I'm going to drop a link in the article on Ultiworld. We'll try to put a link in the podcast description as well, and in the YouTube link in the YouTube description. So check it out and go in, and you can make your own over-under picks, and please give us feedback. Thank you so much to the developer, and I'm going to try to get the name pronunciation correct here, Martin Kamenius, who reached out. He's a developer, and he's built this little website, and we're super excited to have it so we can track everything. And you can make your own picks and your own over-under selections. And so just give us feedback. Let us know what you think. Upshot at ultiworld.com. You can go to discgolf.ultiworld.com/upshot-picks in order to get to the site. And of course, we'll put links everywhere in all of the descriptions. So, Josh, let's do this thing. You want to go first? MPO, let's do it.
Okay. In third place, I've got Chris Dickerson. 4th place last year, playing well, coming into the new bag. I mean, it just feels like maybe it's a little recency bias, but I think with the history of Chris Dickerson, then there's some backing to it. In my second place, this one's interesting. Ready for this, Charlie? I've got Matty O in number 2.
Ooh.
This is going off of gut feeling, and then I went and looked up the standings from last year after I'd put Matty O in my 2 slot. He took 2nd last year, so there's a little something going on here. I mean, appendicitis, obviously not a walk in the park, not fun, but pretty low risk complication, easy to come back from. So I'm not thinking it's going to hold him back too much.
Okay.
Final pick, Paul Macbeth. I mean, he's had one bad round all year long.
That's crazy.
I'm just not willing to pick against that yet. So that's my top 3.
Okay. I'm going to start at the top and go the other direction. Number 1, to win it, why fight the trend? I'm taking Ricky Wysocki. It's time for him to lock in and spice things up as we head towards the Champions Cup. He's never lost this event. So I'm going with Ricky.
Okay.
He's certainly had some good moments so far this season, and I think he's going to put it together this weekend. I like the layout for his game as well. In my 2 spot, Paul Macbeth. Certainly won't be surprised if he wins. What more needs to be said? In my 3 spot, I'm calling the Upshot bump. Joel Freeman.
Ooh.
The wind is going to be down this weekend, so the new putt going to look a little more sharpened up. And he's on the interview series yesterday, and he played well at Waco, which is not that dissimilar a layout to this. I mean, it's a little less distance focused, but I still think the way that Joel Freeman's been throwing it, he's got a chance to be up in that top 3. So I'm going to put him in my 3 spot. Over on the FPO side, I'm going to go in number 3. I'm going to take Valerie Mondahano. She's just in great form right now. Obviously played very, very well at Waco in a similar kind of woods and open combo course. In my 2 spot, I've got Paige Pierce. I think there's enough distance out here that she's going to have an advantage. She's got to avoid the OB though. And in my 1 spot, I've got Kristen Tatar. I think it's basically time for her to win one. And, she's come close. I think this is the weekend that she's going to get the W.
You and I must have a quiet agreement to flip back and forth on Kristen and Katrina, because I have Katrina this weekend taking the win. She looks in good form. There are a lot of things that I like that set up well for her at this course. And I think that she has the opportunity to bounce back from a Waco she obviously shot an amazing final round, but was a little bit lackluster early on. So I think she'll have a good bounce back here. I will never not put Valerie in my top 3 as long as we are in the state of Texas. Valerie Mondahano gets my 2nd place, or 2nd place, excuse me. And by that one sole fact alone. 3rd place, I think I agree with you that distance is important, but because we're still in the woods and there's all the OB as you discussed, I think it's not just going to be about distance. It's going to be about strokes gained tee to green as being the critical stat, especially on an FPO layout that I am still pending judgment on because I'm still skeptical of some of these holes. That means I'm going to pick the player who I think has the best tee to green in the game, Evelina Salonen, for my 3rd place.
3 very controlled players. I like the picks, Josh. I really do.
Thank you.
So those are our picks. Make yours. Let us know in our new Upshot pick site what you think. And we will be back with you next week to discuss it all. And hey, don't forget to subscribe. We're going to have our Rapid React show on Sunday where we break down all the action from Texas States live in our Discord. You can go to discgolf.ultiworld.com/subscribe to become a subscriber, check out the live show, and join us in the Discord. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long, and we'll talk to you next week right here on The Upshot.